What should appraisers be doing?
Don't give up hope. Times are tough, fighting lenders, fighting banks. We've gotten through this all these years. We've gotten here. And I'm going to say this with the Appraisal Institute. We are making so much change. And what I can say to everybody is see where we are in 6 months. I think you'll be really, really happy. And if you're not, you have my email address.
I'm your co-host, Warren Boizot. I'm happy and proud to say that the Face Value podcast has now been around long enough to consider it a tradition to talk to the new and incoming Appraisal Institute president. This year, it is Paula Konikoff, and we want to talk to her a little bit about her background today. Tonia, did you know that in addition to being an MAI, AI-GRS designated appraiser, she has JD among the letters behind her name?
Hi, Warren. Yes, I did know about those extra letters behind Paula's name. I'm very excited to have her on today's episode of Face Value. And with the rapidly changing times in our profession, it is important that we get a fresh perspective from our organization's leader. Paula is also a Los Angeles resident, and given the recent fires in California, she's going to give us her perspective on appraising in this current time. I'm Tonia Vilas, and welcome to the podcast, Paula. So, Paula, can you tell us some things about yourself that some people may not know?
Well, in addition to Warren ratting out the fact that I went to law school and actually practiced law for some years before I joined the Appraisal Institute, was a candidate and got designated. My undergraduate work, I was a theater major. Nothing to do with law, nothing to do with appraisal. I did some summer stock work, great shows like Pal Joey and The Goodbye Girl over and over and over again. But it was an interesting way to start. And there are those who say it is a joke, but I'm not sure they're joking, that is why I moved into expert testimony as the main bit of my practice, because was real comfortable talking to people. And there you have it.
Now, Paula, I didn't know that about you. It's amazing. Every time we meet people on Face Value, we get to know a little bit more about them. Did you go to your undergrad in New York or in California?
I grew up in Philadelphia. And because I was a theater major, when I graduated, I got myself to New York as fast as I could.
Both sides of the country, great places for production, entertainment. So it's amazing that you've gone to both sides. And now you're appraising and working with the Appraisal Institute. So thank you for coming onto our show today and for being present as our current president.
It's great to be here because I've been watching your podcasts and they're great. And I was a little intimidated.
No, you're going to do great. What made you decide to take on the role as president?
I believed, a couple of things. I was on the board of directors. And before that, I was chair of PSGC, which brought me into the boardroom 4 times a year at the meetings. And I had been watching and thinking about leadership. Getting involved, doing more, giving more. It's the ultimate giving. I'm surely learning that right now. But I really felt that I had to maintain my practice full speed. And it's not the kind of practice I can let somebody else, subcontract to somebody else to do a chunk of it. Because what I do is expert testimony and I serve as an arbitrator. So this person has to be sitting in the seat. And I thought, that's not the time. And I had a family situation going on that I thought, bad time to do this. Well, the family situation resolved. And I was watching what was going on in the profession, especially on the residential side, because of hybrid appraisals and AMCs. I thought, I can help make a difference here. And so I ran.
Now, Paula, how do you juggle both? Because I know you're still working. And how do you juggle your employment, your job, your business, and being president of a national organization?
Tonia, juggle is not the word. I am drinking from 2 or 3 fire hoses at all times because my my practice is either nothing going on at all. I'm out walking the beach. This is Southern California, do that. Or I am so busy, I can't breathe. Well, I'm at a so busy, I can't breathe phase this winter. I see it ending, but definitely now. And everything I've done with the Appraisal Institute has taken more time and commitment than I thought I would. When I ran for the board and I was asked, do you have the time to do this? I said, hey, I've been chair of this committee for some years. It requires travel to the ASB meetings, travel to the board meetings, some other peripheral travel. I surely can do the board work. As Tonia well knows. Just living the life of a director with preparation for meetings and all the things that go on is huge. When I was running for office, I was asked, well, how can you make the time for this? And I said, hey, I've been a director, which I realized the stupidity of that comment every day. And if you would have asked me a year ago, how's it going in terms of time, I would have said, I'm not going to say easy peasy, but it's fine. It works. By the second week in January, I realized I had bit off a little more than I could comfortably chew. But, it's now the middle of February and I'm still doing it. So I have hope that it'll be the middle of December and it'll be fine.
So we're still early on in 2025. I see recently you started these daily posts online and sharing with our members some of your ideas. I love hearing about that. When I check LinkedIn in the morning, when I'm getting ready for the day, I'll look to see, hey, did Paula post anything? Is there any commenting on the post? And I'm seeing a lot of positive feedback from our members and everyone around. Can you let us know what made you decide to go online and speak to our members on a daily basis?
I'm not promising that it's going to be a daily basis. It's one more thing on the to-do list, but I've been getting a lot of email. I think the president always gets email from members. And I've been getting a great deal of email with questions, with I'm not happy about this because of that. And what I'm seeing in these, and I've been answering each one of those individually, but I saw a commonality in some of them, among several of them. And I thought, if these people have these questions, I'll bet you more members have these questions. And so why not answer it so the members see it, even though those who don't bother the president with email? There were also some inaccuracies, and we know all about that. A rumor starts and it grows. So I wanted to get factual, the good of it, and hey, give us a little time. We're working on that piece. But to get out, it's not bad. The Appraisal Institute is fine. We're in good shape. It's not bad.
And it's refreshing to see your face behind it, and so that the members get to know who our current president is, who they can reach out to. I'm sure your emails are overloaded, and I appreciate all the time you take to respond to everyone. So thank you for that.
Actually, I would say my pleasure, because I learn a lot from reading these, because they're not all bad. Each one is not all bad. And as a group, they're not all bad. So I'm getting thank you for this, but take a look at that. And some really interesting constructive suggestions to put into the mix. So I've been having, I shouldn't say this because everybody's going to inundate me, but I've been having fun reading them. It's really a pleasure.
Paula, what are some of your objectives for 2025 in your position?
Creating greater collaboration in the Appraisal Institute and the other real estate focused, and not just real estate focused, organizations. Sandy Adamatis, our now immediate past president, and I worked very hard to plant those seeds last year. And now we've got little shoots coming up. And it's just great. We are doing some collaborative things with IAAO now in terms of education. And in fact, Sandy and I are meeting with leadership of IAAO on February 28th to sit down together and really see what we can hammer out. I had a great meeting with, I don't even know how to describe Michael because his title is Director of Public Affairs of RICS America, but his responsibilities are way broader than that. So I've now gotten him in touch with Scott DiBiasio and Brian Rogers, initially to talk about our legislative day in May, where we're trying to bring more people, not just Appraisal Institute people, certainly more AI professionals, but other organizations who are interested in the same issues we are to lobby on Capitol Hill. And so we're going to start there, but Michael and I found a lot of other things that we can do in conjunction. And this has been happening, same conversation with IRWA. We have a good relationship with the American Bar Association, with NACREF, with NAR. We are reaching out to our user groups to let them know who we are and what the brand is. I know this is one of those things we keep saying, but there really is a designated difference. And the more attorneys and bankers and investors know about us and how much we learn and how hard we work for the designations, it increases our value. So I just want that to symbiotic relationships to just get established and keep going. I want to, and this is a toughie, I want to do as much as we can for the residential practitioners, both in our organization and outside. As I said earlier, those folks are really getting whumped, and it's an unwarranted whomp. So let's bring our voices to Washington. You've seen I've posted that area as well. We've had meetings with Fair Housing and talked about those billboards. It took us 2 years to get that first meeting. So advocacy is a hard row to hoe, but keep at it. You know, what I keep saying is you chip away and chip away. You wear the opposition down. You start making progress. And that's what we're good at as an organization. I'm going to Capitol Hill. Brian Rogers is setting up meetings with me on the third week in March. I've never done that before, so I'm excited and I'm wildly intimidated. And we'll see how that goes. And I will post what happened to me in Washington, and I'll be honest about it. This one booted me out. This one sat and listened for an hour. We'll see how it goes.
So on May 14th and 15th, the Appraisal Institute's asking its members to come down and help with the lobbying at the Capitol. Warren and I will be there. So we're wondering if we see you, if you'll be able to, come on our show and tell us a little bit about what's going on real time as we're lobbying that day. How do you feel about that? You want to come on the show and join us again?
I would love that. I certainly will be there. We're going to have some RICS people there. It was interesting when I met with Michael, told him about this day and a half, and said, we need more people. And he said, we've got people. Fine. Bring them out.
Well, you should know, Paula, that I'm super involved with my Colorado Coalition of Appraisers. It's 7-member groups are all a part of it. And many of those people from other groups other than the AI are planning to come. So your posts are working.
That's fabulous. We'll have to post some more. I'll get Scott and Brian to get out there. And there was an email that went out to membership today from them all about this. It'll be so exciting.
Does Washington have enough hotel rooms for all of us?
Oh, we're going to camp out. I mean, it'll be May.
I have a tent for that.
There you go.
Now, Paula, what are some of the challenges that our profession's facing right now?
The whole profession is facing to some degree what the residential appraisers are facing in light of new technology. And there are client groups who really want faster, less expensive because of available technology. We're starting to use artificial intelligence. And I've been doing some speaking engagements on how to use that AI, not our AI, and still comply with USPAP, with our standards. And one of the things I say, because you can, but you really have to think about it. Because, like with any new technology, use the technology, don't let the technology use you. And the fact that you might be able to produce a report more quickly doesn't mean you should reduce your fee. We always face that all the time. What we should be charging for is our professional opinion. That's what we offer. And that doesn't get easier, faster, less expensive to do with technology. Artificial intelligence may find you a bunch of transactions, but it's not going to find you comps. That takes appraiser judgment. So we always have to do that. It's getting a little easier. I think my year is going to be an easier year in terms of appraiser bias than recent prior presidents have faced. Even the PAVE report, the Biden White House started pulling back from that emphasis. And we're seeing more of that pullback now. We have a new administration. It's been changing a lot of things. And I really believe that the focus on appraiser bias is going to go away. So that's going to be a much easier one, but it's still a challenge. Those billboards are still out there telling the public that our work is biased, and that's just dreadful. So that's something we lobby about all the time. So, fee compression, always do it faster because you have these tools, but we have to continue to let the public and our users know that having somebody else inspect a property dilutes the quality of the work. We can't be as good as we can be if we don't have professional appraisal judgment, eyes on what we're appraising. So we got to fight these things.
You're talking about price contraction in prices, in fee pricing. It's amazing. I went to the supermarket the other day and I was trying to buy a carton of eggs, the price that eggs cost. I feel like I'm worth just as much as eggs, if that makes any sense. Seeing the inflation with these little things. And then I've noticed that the appraisal fees have just been stable for so many years. And it's damaging to our profession because we're working so hard and we're putting in so much effort into getting appraisals done, learning how to value, learning about markets, talking, networking, getting to know our professionals in the industry, learning about all the outside influences that affect our neighborhoods and our properties. To see that our fees have been stable and the cost of eggs is just skyrocketing, it doesn't make sense to me.
I believe this is our fault. We are our own worst enemy when it comes to fees. If we don't do the work for that amount of money, the fees are going to have to go up, but it has to be everybody who does that. I was fascinated by the dock workers' threatened strike. They said without an increase in salary and benefits, we're not going to unload that stuff from those ships. Goods will not move. And they won. They got what they wanted. Now, if appraisers did that, we're not going to do that appraisal unless you raise the fee to X, which is what I am worth. The whole banking system would stop. So that would get resolved. But it would need each and every one of us to be not just designated, not just affiliated with one organization or another, but all of the state licensed appraisers in this country to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'll bet you we don't all do that. And it's scary to take that kind of stance.
I've got an idea. If everyone shows up to Legislative Day, May 14th and 15th, we'll have our strike, the 2-day appraiser strike, May 14th and 15th.
I think the thing is that saying, client, raise your fee, is for us to say, here's what this is going to cost. And you have to be brave enough to say, that's it, and maybe not get everything. Our new interim CEO, John Udelhoffen, has said, undercharging is not a good business plan. There's a bit of truth. And part of what he is doing to help us in that way is to start, it's getting underway, it's in production phase now, a monthly lunch and learn to teach appraisers how to run their business. We know how to do appraisals. Do we know how to bill clients? And I don't mean the number, because that's the other thing we're talking about. But how do you get those invoices out? How do you keep track of what's coming in? What he wants to do is teach us to make a better living out of our existing practice and also how to grow our practice. And the first one is going to be Heather Placer-Mole talking to us about marketing, because she is a self-marketer like you wouldn't believe. And it's going to be topics like that, one after the other, all free, all open to everybody. Learn how to run your business.
Yeah, Paula, you talk about all these issues that face appraisers and specifically residential appraisers, I being one of those. I think over the years, and I've been doing it long enough to see that little by little, every once in a while, here's another hit toward the residential appraiser. It's kind of been gradual, but what I feel like in the last couple of years is it's all coming at once.
It's going to take education, and there is the thought that residential appraisers who were ready to wrap it up anyway are going to say, I'm not going to take the time to learn this, so I'm going to take my retirement now. That golf course looks really nice. I put in my time, which opens the door for a whole new group of appraisers to come in. This could really help what we at the Appraisal Institute have been working on, to bring more younger people into the profession, into the organization. And so, and we're developing education. We have 7 classes in the works now for the UAD. Here's how you do it. Here's how you get around the problems. So this is how you comply. The other thing, and I get a lot of pushback on this from some residential appraisers, and some are embracing it. If your practice is entirely lending, you're suffering right now. There are other ways for residential appraisers. There are so many opportunities that residential appraisers aren't taking. Litigation support. I sometimes get calls to work on a piece of litigation that has to do with residential property. I say, hey, I don't know how to do that. I don't have the quals people. Go get some. Well, we've been calling everybody and they don't want to do it. And so I've really been stressing that. I have an online litigation seminar and really pushing the residential piece of it. Here's where you can get residential work. Same thing in arbitration. Huge need. Think about one of the topics on our list. You have something like a natural disaster. Insurance claims typically go into arbitration, and they need arbitrators. And they need arbitrators who understand value of residential property. There are whole lists of, the lists, just like lenders have at insurance companies, qualified residential appraisers to sit on their arbitration panels. Go get it, people. It's out there. You don't have to live entirely in the lending world. It'll help.
Now that you've pivoted to the casualty appraisal side with the wildfires that happened, with a lot of hurricanes going on in the South, what should appraisers be doing? How should they advance their knowledge base so that they can take on those assignments? What courses can they take? Who should they speak to? Any input or any feedback you can give appraisers out there to try to get them into the market?
It's obviously a very tough market because your comps have fallen down the hillside, just like your subject. It's more a task of talking to people. What do you expect? How long do you expect before it can rebuild? What do you think can be rebuilt? All kinds of crazy things happen after a disaster. There's the loss to the homes that were hit. Then there's a boom in construction, and where are those construction workers going to live? And so we have a really detrimental to the population increase in rent rates, so that the people who were displaced because of the disaster are now fighting with construction companies that are willing to pay a very high rent, non-market for that market rent. And so where are they to go? We're seeing that now in LA, and the rebuilding hasn't started, so it's not that issue. We had those fires. Well, last night, the last 2 days, we have had 5, 8, 10 inches of rain in 24 hours, depending on what part of LA you were in. I got 5. I mean, that's a lot of water. But what happened in the burn areas is that mudslides, what was left of the houses, came down. Whole areas of freeways are closed. One of the news clips this morning had one of the rescue vehicles sliding in the mud backward into the ocean. And then they had to rescue the rescuers. It's absolutely awful. And so now more people are displaced because those who made it through the fire have houses half full of mud. And there's rent gouging. All kinds of things are happening. So what are you appraising in this market? Are you appraising for insurance what's broken? Are you appraising for landlords who are looking for loans based on these rents? The Appraisal Institute has a guide note, and it has to do with straight on appraising after a disaster. A lot of good information in there. A lot of our members and non-members don't know that we have guide notes, but they're available on our website. They are appraiser created, peer reviewed, and they're very, very useful. I find them useful. I go to them when I have an issue. A lot of the basis of what you have to do after a disaster is market study, figuring out what happens, what happened, what will happen, where will the market come from? Will it be the displaced people coming back, or will the new product out be priced at a price point that the people who were displaced can't come back? You have to start figuring that out. And that's the harder part. The construction claims for insurance claims are easier. We know how to do that. But it's when the market force is involved. It's when the sale of the home that wasn't involved but is near the disaster area. How do you appraise that? It is so valuable at that moment. Is that market value? It's willing buyer, willing seller at the moment. Or is it? Is it really willing buyer? It's desperate buyer. So we have to think about all of those things. And that guide note will really help you focus where you need to focus. And it gives some good practice tips on exactly how to do it. But that's a pertinent question because it's not just Southern California. You can't turn national news on any morning without hearing about fire, flood, tornadoes. Now we've got, inches and inches, feet and feet of snow. Each of these things has a tremendous effect on real estate, primarily residential. So it's a strong area of work, and it behooves residential appraisers to learn how to do this.
Not to mention all the new construction that's sure to come with, the subject to completion type work. There'll be a ton of it.
A ton of it, yes. So it's really sounds awful to say, in disaster, in boom and in bust, appraisers are necessary. And unfortunately for the people who are directly affected by disaster, appraisers have a whole lot of work. There are a lot of professions that have a whole lot of work after that. So we're not the only ones going, a disaster, look what it's going to do for me. But the construction trades, lawyers, arbitrators, a lot of people have a lot of new work. But on the other hand, I'll say the American Arbitration Association in Los Angeles sent out a blast email asking all of us who are on their arbitrator panel to please, sign up to do pro bono for free arbitration work to help the people who have been directly hit by the disaster. So, on top of doing my practice and being president of the Appraisal Institute, I am a pro bono arbitrator, and I'm starting to get some of those cases because giving back is the best thing we can do.
Paula, I'm speechless after that. It's very sad to see what happened in those areas. It's sad to see that lives were lost. More can be lost, but it's good to know that there's a community there rebuilding. And for people like you who are giving back, it's amazing. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for what you're doing for our organization.
Now that you've embarrassed me entirely, you're welcome.
That is great, Paula. I want to thank you for continuing in this. I said it at the beginning, this now tradition of interviewing the incoming and current president of the Appraisal Institute, and hopefully many more down the road. Tonia, if anyone were to have an idea for a podcast and they wanted to reach out to us, how would they do that?
Well, I think they should email Paula since they already have her email address. But if that inbox is full, they can reach out to Warren and myself at facevalue@appraisalinstitute.org. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and see you soon.